I am now excited to introduce Dr. Sheree Sekou. Sheree is going to talk to us about shifting from fear to positivity. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Michelle. Dr. Sekou is going to talk to us about, wow, I lost it. Can you jump in, Amanda? What's the title?
Absolutely. Leading yourself to be the change you seek.
Right on. Okay, thank you for saving me there. So I want to start with Dr. Sekou's education because it's important to all of us knowing background. Dr. Sekou has a PhD in organizational leadership from USF, where Connie goes to school. Yay! She also has a master's in educational leadership from California State, Sacramento, and she got her bachelor's in human development from California State, Hayward. So she's a local girl. Right now, Dr. Sekou, or I'll call you Sheree. I think that you go by Sheree. Dr. Sheree is a leadership and learning consultant, and she has her own consulting firm. And she works with people who want to thrive through change and live a life that they truly treasure. So she is in many ways helping people thrive and become more of who they want to be. And all of her work is grounded in a strengths-based philosophy. It's about finding the best in an individual and an organization. She likes to say, or we've heard her tell us, that this expertise comes not just from all of her education, but also from the way that she lives her own life, and always looking for the next very best thing and courageously leaping forward into a better life. So she really does feel the fear and does it anyway. And then she's also considers herself like a lifelong learner of spirituality, personal empowerment, self-mastery, and cultural enlightenment. So she's leading through example in how she's living her own life. Dr. Sheree is an avid traveler. She actually has been to 6 of the 7 continents through both business and her personal world. And right now she calls both Texas and the US Virgin Islands home. I want to send out a special thanks to Marcy Rinkoff for introducing us to Dr. Sheree. This is our first time involving her, although we've been talking to her for a little while, and we hope we can keep her involved. Thank you for being here, Dr. Sheree. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for the warm introduction, and thank you for having me. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. First of all, it is a pleasure to share the platform with so many wonderful leaders who have been on already sharing their stories. It's a pleasure to be here with your scholars and mentors and your fantastic team at SheCan. And I'm just happier than a lot. I couldn't be happier than to be here right now. And so before I begin, oh, Grace, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Before I begin, I want to start with a celebration. Barbara, I hope that's okay with you.
Sure.
First, I want to, well, actually, we just got done dancing. So had I known you all were going to be dancing, I probably would have signed up with SheCan years ago. So that was so much fun. But just bringing that dance and that flow and that peace and calm into starting my session today, I want to celebrate you, Barbara. First of all, for all that you do and all of your work and how you invest in women and women's issues. I just wanted you to know that from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure I can speak from a lot of people in the room, that I see you, I celebrate you and your outstanding team. I've been emailing back and forth with Amanda and a couple other folks. So just thank you for your work, and I celebrate all of your success. To all of the scholars that are on the call right now, all of those who've graduated and have come back, all of those who just started, those in the middle, I celebrate all of you. I know firsthand what it's like to take on something like you are doing, not just for yourself, your education, but for your community. So I celebrate you as well. It's no small feat. Congratulations on your success thus far. And to the mentors, to the volunteers, to the donors, everyone else who's a beautiful, bountiful stakeholder for She Can. I celebrate you too. When I heard about She Can, and yes, shout out to Marcy for just introducing me. When I read the background and I learned that this came as a result of a conversation in a salon, then a bold request, then a dream and a lot of hard work. I said, women can do anything. Sign me up. I'm here for it. So I'm glad to be here. Just wanted to celebrate your success and just congratulate everyone in advance as we move forward. And so the topic of our session today is leading yourself to be the change you seek. I'm just making a couple of adjustments here to my screen. You give me just a moment. And so I would love to hear from the folks here on our call. What's a word or phrase that comes to mind when you think of leading yourself? So if you wouldn't mind, wherever you are in the world, just flood the chat with your responses on what's one word or phrase that comes to mind when you consider leading yourself. I see them now. Grace is saying bravery. You're absolutely right. Taking risks, as Barbara. Is it Dina or Dean? Courage, courage. Elena
Dine.
saying, Dine. Thank you for that. Elena saying integrity, absolutely. Makara saying believing in yourself, which is so critical. Grit. Oh, I haven't heard that word in a while, Jennifer, but that's a good one. Singthong is saying personal growth. All of that is important. Self-reflection. Melanie, we're coming back to that. Moon, building yourself, right, is so important. Knowing that we are doing something with a clear vision. So being crystal clear, may that focus is critical. We're going to come back to that as well. Ria says being self-determined. Madison saying owning your personal power. Theory says commitment, discipline from Hope, authenticity from Kelsey. 80 is authenticity again, serving with passion, says Janet. Willpower, she power, Chanel. Tarly says moving forward, all of these things. Charlie, don't let me forget to come back to moving forward. We will be here in just a moment. Keep all of those words in mind because we're going to come back to those in just a moment. Great ideas. I wanted to hear from you what you thought about it before I share a little bit about my background, my philosophy around leading yourself so you can be the change that you seek. First of all, I want to share a little bit about me. That picture on the left-hand side, I bet you can't guess how old I was. This is me in San Antonio as an 18-year-old out of high school, just graduating U.S. Air Force boot camp. Maybe that was A school in Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. This is me New Year's Day with my honey. I had to show his picture. I don't show it very much, but I'm like, we're family. Let's do that. His birthday is today. So join me in saying a happy birthday to the other Dr. Sekou. That is my honey, Malik. So my leadership, a lot of my leadership background experience before school and professional training started in the military. So, when you join the military, especially at such a young age, I joined so I could have money to go to college because my family could not afford to send me to college. That is how I got a lot of my leadership training. A little bit the way it looks today. So for the past 16 or 17 years or so, I've been involved in designing and delivering leadership and learning programs that catalyze change. So the picture on the left is what the wonderful organization, their global organization, I was doing something similar to what I'm doing today with a couple of their leaders there in their diversity and inclusion group. You can see on the right-hand side, that is our Equal for Equal, because we are all about women having equal rights to every single thing that anyone else should have out there, and all people, not just women. So that is really the passion. I put that picture there because that really fuels so much of why I do what I do and what is my North Star, if you will, as it relates to leadership and leading myself. Now, what I wanted to share is that in my work with leaders and learners all over the globe, there's just one constant that I kept running into. What do you think that is? Let's see that in the chat. Everywhere I go, no matter where, there's always one constant. There's always one constant. What do you think that is? Let's see here. What do you think the constant is in life? Myself, you're absolutely right about that. That's one. What else? No matter what business we're in, Amanda, that's it. Change. Rhea, your values too. Alina, you got it. Change. The only thing constant in all of my clients, whether they were for healthcare, whether they were in education, universities, corporate America, the only constant is change. But here's the thing. We human beings are creatures of what? Let's see that in the chat. Human beings are creatures of what? Habit. That's it. Habit and imperfection, 80, but habit for sure. And so here's the thing. When you're talking about leading yourself and being the change you seek, our habits and our need to be comfortable and our desire to be comfortable have a way of running smack in the middle of change. And when that happens, there's bound to be some tension. So, this presentation, the book that I've written, What a Difference a Change Makes, is designed to relieve a little bit of that so we can open ourselves back up, settle down, settle in to the work that we have decided to do as leaders throughout the globe. I do want to mention this quote by someone that I love so much, Angela Davis, and it's pretty straightforward and clear. And that's anyone who's interested in making change in the world also has to learn how to take care of herself, himself, their self. So, this whole old adage that we'll run about and take care of the entire world and put ourselves last. We'll run to the left and put out all the fires there, but don't take care of our own wellness. I was so happy that Michelle was here to talk about mindfulness. Michelle, I am right with you, and I'll talk about how I incorporate that into my leadership philosophy as well. But this whole idea of not taking care of ourselves as we lead and serve, we've got to resolve to put that to bed, because without being well and taking good care of ourselves, we can't do the work well. So this is the crux, this is the foundation of where I'm going to be taking us today. And what I'd like to do is for us to think and kind of consider a few ways that you can lead yourself to be the change you seek. And so we're going to break this into about three different overarching categories. First, we're going to re-examine what it means to lead yourself and see that through a lens. You've already shared so much about how you feel about the topic already, so I'll build off of a lot of what you mentioned and expand that. I want us also to reimagine change and get you to know that you get to decide what changes, how you change the world, how you change your life and yourself, and just talk that through a little bit. And then I want to make sure that before you leave here, we all have recommitted to changing what we can. And I'll get into what that stands for in just a moment. And so the way I'm going to discuss these is to offer what I call the triple A's of self-leadership and positive change. And so first of all, if you're thinking about leading yourself and being the change you seek, it is a marathon, not a sprint. It is a journey, not a destination. We've got to be in it for the long haul. In order to do that, when you're on a road trip, it's good to have insurance, right? So this AAA is going to be our assurance that can keep us safe, keep us grounded, keep us sure about ourselves and the work we have to do in the world. So let's go ahead and begin. The first A is all about acceptance. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's always easier for me to accept something when I understand it more. So I want to talk about this idea of change. Since we know change is constant, we know we desire to be the change we seek. We've got to really land into it and understand it more. So I have found that there are three primary ways that we land into change. The first is change as calling. So this means you're in your home country. There's something you see that's just not quite right. You weren't going to do anything about it, but something inside, right in here or right in here in the belly, just kind of pulls you in and you feel called to change by something almost greater than you. That's what it feels like. That's change is calling. The second is change is choice. This is when you decide you want to take on a particular challenge because it's something that you see as a perceived benefit. So, for example, while I'm called to the work that I do, I chose to go to school. While I could, I love beaches and things, I chose to move to the Virgin Islands. That was a choice before I even met my husband. So that's change's choice, a little bit different from calling, equally as powerful. The third, but certainly not the least, is change as catapult. This is when you're minding your own business, doing your thing, and the rug gets pulled from under you, and you have no choice but to change. You have no choice but to change. So I want you to think about these three for a moment. I want to ask yourself about the work. I want you to ask yourself the work that you are doing now, the educational track that you're on now through your studies and She Can. Would you say it falls into something you were called to do, something you chose because you just wanted to make a difference, or something that happened because you were catapulted and you said, I gotta do something different? Let's see that in the chat area. Would you say yours? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Dine, is it Dine? I'm sorry. Let me write it down. Dine, right?
You got it. It's Dine.
Yes.
Yes.
Good, Dine. Okay. Dine, you have put the nail on the head right here. As it relates to Catapult, we have all been collectively, globally catapulted into change right now. I know personally, I spent 7 months without my husband because we happened to be traveling and we were geographically in 2 different places. My business has been completely catapulted. It's getting back on track, but big time challenges because all of my classes were in person. So it took a while for us to go to virtual. And so it has been a serious challenge. So Barbara said calling is how her work has reached out to her. Good. Let's hear from some other folks in the chat. I'd love to see which one represents how you do your work, why you chose your degree program, why you chose She Can. Is it calling, choice, or did something happen to make you say, I've got to do this? Any scholars, mentors, other folks want to weigh in on that question? And I'll repeat it one. Oh, Grace is saying also calling. Good. And for the scholars there, if you have questions, please pop off mute. I'm happy to clarify. Ria says more like a combination of calling and choice. Beautiful combination, Ria. Hope, catapult. Yeah, Hope, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but later, if you're willing to share, I'd love to hear. Marcy says, I was called to She Can mission. High five to Marcy. I was called as well. Thank you. Carolyn says calling as well. So many beautiful ways. So I think what I want you to know about this is that there's no way around this. There's no way around change. All we can do is accept it, commit to changing what we can, and stand in it. So if you've been called to do the work, as Barbara mentioned, when things get tough, if it doesn't work out the way you want it, we got to pull up our pants and still do it anyway. We got to ask for help and still move forward, no matter which category. Knowing your category can sometimes help you to step further into your power, okay? So that is acceptance. I do want to take a moment to share a little bit about one of the ways I've been catapulted into change in a lot of different ways. But I want to share a brief story with you. If you wouldn't mind just closing your eyes for me and just taking a deep breath in and then out. Just keep your eyes closed. And I want you to imagine that you are on your way to work. You're in your car, or maybe you're on the bus, you're on an Uber shared ride, taking a ride with your friends, taking a walk. And it's a beautiful day. You're ready to do your work. You love the work that you do, and you arrive at your office or your school. And when you're there, your emails are in action. You know you got work to do. So you get the day started. You start going through your checklist. And then in the middle of a meeting, you start to get notifications on your phone. So you can see it popping up. but you don't want to move your attention. So you stay focused on your work. Then after a while, you can kind of see it in your peripheral vision, these notifications popping up. So imagine that, keep your eyes closed, but imagine that you go to your phone and you open it up and you see a text message and lots of missed calls. And you open up the text message. Now open your eyes. Open your eyes. And imagine you see a text that says, you've had a fire. We've had a fire. That was my situation. I was attending school in California, living in Oakland. And I remember being shocked out of my seat and pants. It was actually the last semester of my undergraduate. And I was completely shocked. Had I not taken some laundry in the car with me, I just happened to have a load and a half in the car, I would have had nothing when we came back. I remember being shocked. I remember taking days and days and days to just recall what I might have missed. Luckily, I had taken my computer to work with me, so I had that. I didn't have to start all over with some of my coursework, but I obviously lost books and everything like that. It was a really, really unimaginable, tough time. In fact, I remember going to stay with family members in Daly City. If you've been to San Francisco, you know where that is. And I don't even think I changed clothes for the first 24 hours because I was that much in shock. I'm lucky and blessed and fortunate that my family members there surrounded me with love. They helped me make phone calls. The Red Cross at the time helped me. My professors helped me get back on track. And I think what stands out to me the most is looking out the window at San Francisco Bay Area and thinking, I can pull myself up from this. I don't know how, but I can pull myself up from this. And so mine happened to be a fire, but bit by bit, I was able to get myself back together. I got another apartment. I finished my schooling later on, went to get my master's degree. Later on, went to get my doctoral degree. I got married after that. So many, believe it or not, amazing things happened after being catapulted in this event. In fact, it's that event that led to me moving to the U.S. Virgin Islands, which is where we live now. And so I wanted to tell you, that's my story, but whether your catapult is a fire, whether it is the changes with COVID-19, whether it's civil unrest where you live, whether it's worrying about your children and whether or not they're going to be able to go to college, whether it's losing someone during this very, very challenging time of COVID-19, whatever it is, just know that leading yourself, taking steps bit by bit, will allow you to emerge from the metaphorical fire to begin again. And I call this section acceptance. And I think this quote by Eckhart Tolle just helps to talk about what I mean by acceptance. It says, acceptance looks like a passive state, but in reality, it brings something entirely new into this world. That peace, that subtle energy vibration is consciousness. So there's something about acceptance that can settle us into, no matter what happens, I'm going to be able to make it. I'm going to be able to make it. And so as you lead yourself, know how powerful it is to accept the path that you've chosen for yourself, and understand why you're doing it, because you're going to need that why to keep you fueled along your journey. Now, building off what Eckhart Tolle mentioned, I talk about acceptance as it relates to beginning again, because sometimes it could be, like I said, a divorce. It could be a lot of different things. We have to start all over. So as it relates to leading yourself and creating positive change and being the change you seek, acceptance is far from passive. Instead, it is powerful. When we can accept the reality of what is, then we can reimagine and recreate a new reality for ourselves and for others. So land in that first A of acceptance, know how important it is. And now I have a question for you all, and that is, what areas of your life yearn for a little more acceptance? I want you to think about that. I'd love it if you would drop that in the chat or come off mute. I want you to just think about that. Are you being kind to yourself along the change journey? Or are you being hard on yourself? Are you moving against the changes that are happening now? Or are you going with the flow? What areas of your life yearn or are asking for a little more acceptance? Let's see some responses in the chat, or please come off mute. I'd love to hear from you. Barbara saying being satisfied with the way it is, just stepping into that. Yes, Barbara. Amanda, co-parenting post-divorce, not easy at all. That's another one, very, very good one. Let's hear from some other folks. What areas, it could be personal, professional, are requiring you to do a little bit more acceptance right now? Any thoughts from anyone in the room there? Carolyn says, being unsure of my dates for, oh my gosh, for a cross-country move. Carolyn, that's the worst, right? When you don't know what to do, you've got bags packed, people are ready to get your new place, but they want the old place, all of that. So any other examples that you can think of where you could benefit from a little more acceptance? If so, please add them to the chat area, because I would love to hear from you. So that is our acceptance, which is our first. And I do want to also leave you with, acceptance is a sacred opportunity to step into your power to choose, because we can be against all the change, or we can lean into it, stand with it, stand shoulder to shoulder with it. The opposite can be very, very heavy and taxing on us. Okay, so keep that in mind as your first A. Let's ease into the second A, which is awareness. So awareness is all about owning the change. And so when I think about awareness of what we're going to change and why, I have a credo that I'm going to share with you, because you want to find a way to make it personal. We talk about clarity. No great change to me exists without clarity. So it's important to know what you want to change and why. And then commitment. What can I or we or all of us do to make it better? What can be done now? What can be done next? Because sometimes we can't do it all at once. So let's talk about first the positive change credo. And I mention this quite a bit whenever I'm doing book events, but it's a very, very simple credo. And it's that if there's an area of your life, our world, that you know requires change, you have both the right and responsibility to change it for the better. This is the essence to me of self-leadership. So a lot of times we know that there are things that need to change, but we don't step into the leadership part of it. Or we can lead others, but we're not very good at leading ourselves. So self-leadership is taking all of those things we do to lead organizations, lead other people, and applying it to ourselves. And so when you're stuck and you're not exactly sure, well, what else do I need to change? I want to give you a quick formula for that. It's how to know it's time to lead yourself and be the change you seek. Okay. If you find yourself doing the same thing, but getting this and getting the same results, we know that that's the definition of insanity. So we don't want to do that, right? The N is for, have you noticed that whatever the situation is having a negative impact on you or other people around you? Are there people at school who just aren't having the character you think they should have? Is there a person you're working with that's making it difficult for other folks to work well together and to accomplish your mission? That's the N. Have you noticed the situation is having a negative impact on you or others? In corporate America, we say if it's having a negative impact on people, processes, or profit, we got to move in to lead and make a change. The O is, are things feeling out of control? Is your stress level high? Is the clutter going bonkers? Are your finances off kilter? That's an indication that it's time to do something. The W is the easiest one. Do you simply wish or want things to be better? Armed with just a wish and a dream, you can take on the charge of leading yourself to have change. And so if you're wondering, is now the time? Is this okay? Should I keep ignoring that? This is a simple way for you to just take it through this quick series of 4 questions and just know I am aware that it is time for this thing to change. You're not in action yet. You're just landing into what needs to change. And then I also wanted to mention this, and here we go. We've got something in the chat. It doesn't need to be all, no, absolutely, Madison. You're absolutely right. It can just be one of those. And Madison, have you ever heard of weighted, like a weighted survey? Sometimes if you really want something to be better, that can trump all those other things. That's the thing. It can be weighted, so you're in charge. That's the thing about all of this. Ask the questions of yourself. You don't have to go outside of yourself for the answers. If you need help, you've got mentors, you've got friends, you've got family to support you, but these are questions you can answer for yourself. And then once you're aware, then you want to think long and hard so you can get ready to be committed. As I mentioned, it's a journey. It's a marathon. And our departed John Lewis said, let's take a long, hard look down the road you will have to travel once you've made a commitment to work for change. Know that this transformation will not happen right away. Change often takes time. It rarely happens at once. So we got to be in it for the long haul. If there's not a passion underneath, if there's not a purpose or a deep desire, it makes it tough. So that awareness piece is to ground you inside of your desire around this change. Land on it, and then you can go from there. Does that make sense? Hope it's tracking. Now, the last, but certainly not the least in the AAA would be action. So once we understand change, we understand we're not exempt, and we're aware of what needs to change and why, then we can lean into bold or balanced, significant or small action. It's up to us. You all have taken on huge change initiatives, which is fantastic, but some of the changes you do may be big and small. It depends. And so when you're talking about being the change you seek, I always simply say, change the things you can. And can helps me to remember. I love acronyms, in case you haven't noticed. It's because I love to make things simple so I can remember them, right? And so the C in can is capacity. I can't tell you how many women and men I work with in my coaching practice, in my leadership sessions, who really fail to be raw and honest with themselves about their bandwidth. And people talk about goal setting. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. I believe one of the biggest interrupters to seeing goals to fruition is not being clear and honest about our bandwidth, not asking for help when we need it, or involving in what's called planning fallacy. Have you heard of that? Planning fallacy? One of my favorite words. It means that we think something's going to take 6 months when it really is going to take more like a year. But we're enthusiastic, so we don't plan well. So be honest about your capacity and your bandwidth without judgment, without comparing yourself to anyone, because you are enough. The second is your ability. Assess your ability. Passion is not the same thing as preparation. While passion is extreme and fantastic, sometimes we need to up-level our skills. We need to grab people on our team to help us. So you do your own assessment and get in great community when you know that you need to get prepared. And then nature. I will say that very few philosophies around leadership, around leading and leading well, talk about our nature. And I want to disrupt that today. in small part in this session. And that is, I'm going to suggest that you be yourself and lead with things that come naturally to you. So I'm hoping that even if it's tough, it's still things that are natural to you that you feel another level of comfort in doing because it comes to you naturally. Sometimes, I would say this, the reason I love strengths-based philosophy is because it narrows in on our strengths instead of spending a lot of time remediating weaknesses. Because a lot of times we can do so much with just the things we're naturally good at. So that's something to note as well in terms of action. And so I do want to just take a minute to talk about capacity. And I would love for a person or two to come off mute and either ask me a question about what I mean about capacity or tell me what you know to be about your capacity these days. And I'll say that because we're in unprecedented times. And I don't know about you, but my capacity, I always commit to do my best, but my best is changing day to day, moment to moment. So I'd love to hear from a couple volunteers about what you know to be true about your capacity. Anything?
I'd rather have a scholar speak, but I'll talk, and then maybe a scholar will talk. They'll think about it. I think I have more capacity than I ever thought I did. I just do. I realized that I can handle more things once I put them on my plate with help.
Yes, I love it, Barbara. And see how Barbara mentioned help? Sometimes that's the key. We can do so much more together. Who else would like to weigh in? What do you know to be true about your capacity?
For me, I know my ability and capacity when I write it down. So when I write it down, I have like a sense of like what can I achieve, and then I start to prioritize things, and then start thinking, is it I can do? If I cannot do, is there any way that I can find help from other people? So that's what I do. Yeah.
May, you could teach the last portion of this session because that's exactly what I was going to say. Prioritize and decide, can I do it? Can I not? If I need help, and it's so funny. A lot of times we overcomplicate things when it really is as simple as May just mentioned. It's that simple because we can't give ourselves over to everything. So those things that we do decide to do, those deserve our investment, our attention, our resources, all of that, if that makes sense. I see something coming in the chat here. Let's see here. Yeah, awesome. Hey, May. Yeah, so true, May. They're agreeing with you there. So that's fantastic. And so before we get into shift gears and do our last portion, which is SMART goals, I had to, if I'm going to talk about quotes, I love quotes, but I had to say one from our Michelle Obama, Flotus Forever. And it says, don't ever underestimate the importance you can have because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own. So even though I want you to look at your capacity, still don't underestimate yourself. Just channel all of your goodness into the best directions, the best place based on the priorities as May mentioned, based on the things that are, and then you'll start to feel like Barbara mentioned, you start to feel like, wow, who knew I could do this, right? Who knew I could do this? Yes. And then Amanda added, I notice my capacity increases when I'm practicing. Amanda, ditto, I'm giving you a virtual high five. You're not alone. When I take care of myself, my capacity grows leaps and bounds. And I'm going to talk about that as well. And so we've got our AAA. And so I do want to make sure that we just talk a little bit about simplified decision making. I know this was something that you leaders and scholars wanted to learn about. And so as it relates to simplified decision making, a lot of what May mentioned earlier before, first of all, we've got our SMART goals as it relates to goal setting. First of all, let's see with a raised hand. Do you all have a reactions button? Can you pop your hand up or a thumbs up if you know what SMART is an acronym for? If you know what SMART goal stands for. If so, will you? Okay, good. I see a couple of little good thumbs up. I figured if you do not know, can someone who put their thumbs up, would you mind weighing in? Hope I see your hand up. Would you mind sharing what you remember about SMART goals?
Sure. SMART, I think it means specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
Woohoo! Yes, Hope nailed it. Let's give Hope a virtual thumbs up, round of applause. Great work, Hope. Thank you for that. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. I figured you knew a lot of this. When it comes to making goals, because that you should have goals so you'll know what to prioritize. Just make sure they're specific. That's why it's so important to be clear. Make sure you have a way of measuring them so you'll know that you've actually succeeded or how far you are along the track. Make sure, I'm going to come back to attainable and realistic, and then make sure you have a time bound. Let's land on attainable and realistic or relevant. I know depending on who you learn from, it could be realistic or relevant. That attainability backs me into the planning fallacy again. So we want to make sure that when we're making goals, we want to give ourselves a stretch, but we don't want to stress ourselves out. So remember, stretch, it shouldn't be too easy, a stretch, but not a stress. I don't want you to never sleep in pursuit of your goals. We might lose a little sleep, right? But I don't want it to be a cycle of overdoing and not taking good care of ourselves, because we need to be solid and strong physically and mentally to be able to execute on our goals. So once you've got your goals laid out and they indeed are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, and you looked at your capacity against these goals and you've got some good dates and benchmarks there. If it's time to make a decision, it's so simple. When something tries to veer you off of your goals, you can ask yourself, is this action activity on the way or is it in the way? Seems simple, right? But it's that simple. If I join this other group, is it on the way of my long-term professional goals, the things I want to do for my country, my community, or might it get in the way? If I get involved in this particular relationship, is it going to be supporting me and being on the way to success and being a better leader, a better servant out in the world? Or is it going to drain me so that I can't even work effectively? And you be the judge. You be the leader of that. Okay? And so I see a couple notes here. Thank you, Amanda, for writing that down. And yes, great work, Hope, on that. And so this rounds us up to just a last, but certainly not least, I want to leave you with some fuel. Because since we're on a journey, and since we know that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and since, as Amanda mentioned, we've got to be well. You want to lead others, we've got to be well. We've got to take care of ourselves. I want to give you some simple tips to be able to lead yourself more effectively. Very practical, easy to remember. The first is called New View, which is minding your mind. I was so happy when I realized that Michelle was going to teach us more about mindfulness, seeing things differently, seeing ourselves as leaders, settling our minds down, settling into the work we have to do. I personally start every day in meditation and prayer, not always meditation, and several times a week in meditation. I use the Shine app. I don't know if you've ever used that before, but it's a beautiful woman-owned platform that's motivational for meditation. It's called Shine, and my day is different when I don't use it, so I love it so much. So make sure your mind is conducive to leading yourself and being the change you seek. And whatever you have to do to make that happen, do that and do it well. Now, New Do is mind your time. Now, you want to periodically inspect how you are spending your time. Remember how May mentioned prioritization? Every once in a while, go back and look. How did I spend my time? If I didn't get this goal accomplished, what was I doing instead? What did I give my time over to? Maybe the thing you gave your time over to is the real priority, and that's okay. But every once in a while, as a leader, be in the habit of periodically inspecting your time. So that's mining your time for some extra places for where jewels might be in there. New crew, choose wisely. Make sure you know who you're rolling with. I'll say it like that. Let me tell you the power of a good crew. I don't know if you all have heard of the Hivery. It's a beautiful women-owned co-working space in the San Francisco Bay Area. I am here today because I went to the Hivery, became a part of their virtual co-working team, and met Marcy and was like, oh my gosh, I love that. I would love to come and support. That's how I'm here. I have crews for my personal development. I have crews for my business development to keep me on track and accountable. Whatever you're doing, make sure you're surrounded with fantastic people who are going to be the wind underneath your wings and help you when things are tough. Not give you the answers to all the tests, but support you in being a better leader. The fourth one is new avenue. Be prepared to take the road less traveled. I have a feeling you all are already on that one as well, being determined to put yourself where you really want to be. I'd have to have another talk to tell you all of the crazy journeys that I've been on in pursuit of education. For my doctoral program, I commuted from here in the Virgin Islands. I'm in the US Virgin Islands in a co-working space right now to San Francisco every other weekend for 3 years at University of San Francisco because we didn't have a program here. So I say that to say, when we want to do something, when women want to do something, wild horses can't stop us. So sometimes what we want is not convenient and easy, but be willing to take the road less traveled when it's time. And then new revenue. I don't want to leave you without thinking that we've got to avail ourselves to abundance and be open to abundance in all of its many forms. Sometimes it's income, sometimes it's access, sometimes it's a lot of different things. But I want you to know, just thinking about the changes I had to make in COVID, I was able to, just with a simple adjustment in my business, be able to open up a different revenue stream that I hadn't even marketed before. But I had to be willing to shift things up, not get stuck in how upset I was with losing revenue and all of that. We have to be agile in the face of change. So these are 5 simple. If you forget all the others, these are the things you'll be able to grab onto. Ask yourself, am I minding my mind? Am I making the best use of my time? When I'm with these people, do I feel good? Or do I feel like the air is out of me after a conversation? Am I keeping the safe route, the most convenient route because it's easy, or do I need to take this path because it's what my heart and soul is asking me to do? And then as it relates to abundance and revenue streams, what other ways do I offer myself in service in divine exchange, which does include revenue and service? So those are my tips for you. I want to end like I started by telling you that I appreciate you so much. It is a pleasure getting to know you virtually. We can definitely stay in touch. If you go to yourtreasurelife.com, you can learn more about my work. It backs also into my consulting website. You can follow me on Instagram at Your Treasured Life. And I am looking forward to continuing to support She Can and all the great work that Barbara and her team and you all are doing. And I would love to stop sharing now and open it up for questions, comments. The app that I mentioned, Kristen, is Shine, Shine. It is a women-owned meditation app. It is the best thing since sliced bread. And so I think you should definitely try it if you're interested. One last thing, I forgot to mention what happens when we don't lead ourselves and be the change we seek. Not when we don't, but I should switch that to the affirmative when we do. For years, especially after the hurricane, coming here to see my husband, because we go back and forth, he comes there, I come there, coming here to see him would be fraught with me going to hotels, renting rooms to do my virtual work, flying over to Puerto Rico because they had co-working, until a FEM founder here decided to open the first, only, and women-owned co-working space. And because of her dream and seeing it to the end, I can sit here in St. Thomas, do this work with you, do my client work. I'm a digital nomad and I love it. I wouldn't want it any other way. But it's because of the dreams of women like her, like you, like Barbara, like all of you. And so hold on to them. When you see yourself easing away, pull yourself back up. And there's nothing like getting in a community for people to help you do just that. What questions can I answer about this? Cece is asking a question in the chat. In taking actions toward the change you seek, how can you get others to believe in your vision and join your initiative? Very, very good. Well, first of all, you've got to be able to clearly articulate your vision. So some people, I think they think it needs to be super drawn out. Simplicity is golden. Clearly articulate your vision. Lock arms with some people who can help you get the message out there, and you would be amazed what can happen. You'd be amazed. What happens is when we don't clearly and simply articulate our vision, people get confused, and a confused mind just does not take action. And so do take some time, even get some help articulating your vision so that it's clear, concise, use imagery. But how do you think I was able to come here? Marcy told me about it. I said, well, why don't I know about She Can? I like to be in the know for all these things. I went to the website, clear, articulate vision. I look at the pictures, clear, compelling stories about the work you're doing. Who can say no? Who can say no and feel good? No one. I mean, so clear and concise there. Cece, I hope that helps, because if you feel it and you can clearly convey it, that's when you start to get people coming on board, Cece. I hope that helps. May, how do you motivate yourself to keep moving forward when we fail too many times? Oh my goodness, you're giving me a little goosebump on that one. All I can say on that one is that you got to know your why. You have to know your why. The why for me is my ultimate fuel, because when I have to stay up at night, late at night sometimes, when I have to not do something else I really want to do because of that, it's because I've made the decision, and it's the why that fuels me. So even when I make mistakes, I just dust myself off and get back up. Sometimes I have to sit down for a minute because the mistake's too crazy or too heavy. I'll admit, I may have to sit down, even take a nap, take a complete detox for a little while, gather strength, and then come back in. So when you feel that you are really beaten down by the mistakes you made, sometimes you need to give yourself a little time to shake it off, gather strength so you can begin again. We can always start brand new. We can always emerge. I don't care what it is. I promise you, you can get back up and keep going. You may not be able to do it by yourself. You may need some help. And there's nothing wrong with seeking help if you need that. I hope that helps. I have made so many mistakes. I'm making mistakes today, constantly. I just dust myself off and keep going. And after a while, sometimes I just consider it part of business to make mistakes. I just keep going. Okay, Rhea says, how do you draw the line between I'm capable of doing more than the limit and accept that it is out of my cup? Oh gosh, Rhea. Shaking my head on this one, Rhea. That was a good one. Oh, okay, I'm gonna take a deeper breath on that. I land in this a lot, Rhea. And what I've found, whenever we need to learn something, Rhea, it's amazing how the universe sends a teacher to help us learn how to do it better. So I definitely am a recovering overdoer. Let that land on you a little bit. I am a recovering overdoer. Staying up later than other people, saying yes when I should say no, taking on assignments that I shouldn't have, the craziest. Until I landed on the work, a lot of work. A lot of people have influenced my life, a lot, but I want to point out one, and that's Parker Palmer. I don't know if you've heard of Parker Palmer, but he's the author of many books. He has one book called Let Your Life Speak, Answering the Call of Vocation. So I read his book, and I went to several of his workshops. He has an organization called the Center for Courage and Renewal. I don't know if you've heard of that. And I happened to be so fortunate to be in a small group with him as part of a leadership. I was in a young leadership development program back then. And he spoke about the violence of chronic overdoing. And I'm very literal. Marcy knows that. I'm too literal. When I realized that I was making a choice to chronically, not someone was doing it to me, Ria. I was making choices day in and day out that were violent. He actually called it self-violence, a form of self-violence, when we constantly push ourselves beyond what is humane or humanly possible. And so this is where your leadership capacity, Ria, you're gonna have to lean into it, because I can't tell you what that is. Barb can't tell you what that is. We can't, you've got to know this for yourself. So a good indicator is when you start to get physically ill, when things start getting out of control, as I mentioned, when you're going in circles. Remember the K? You keep doing the same thing, not getting any results. Or if you just say, I'm done with this, I want things to be better, then you know I probably hit the capacity, I've hit a wall, I need to change. But be careful, Ria, be on the lookout for deep desire. I want to talk about deep desire. Sometimes when we really, really, really want something, it will make us suspend our good leadership judgment. We really want something to be a particular way. Sometimes we'll suspend our otherwise good leadership judgment. And so I want you to know you're not alone. Most leaders I know struggle with finding balance. Those who learn to steady it out, use the techniques that Michelle mentioned today. We start our days mindfully. When we get off track, we tag somebody else in for help. I also want to recommend one other book that I can think of now. I have lots, but 24/6, Tiffany Shlain. It is a book about Personal Sabbath, and that is taking one day a week away from tech, away from things, so you can resource yourself and come back more whole. Does that make sense, Ria? So get the resources and just know there's so much out there. Tap into what you need to make yourself whole. Personal Sabbath has changed my life. A commitment to just 24 hours a week away from stuff, into myself, into my family, so I can come back, begin again, whole and well. Mindfulness, even 10 minutes a day, has changed my life. Barbara, tell us a little bit more about your book. Okay. My book is called What a Difference a Change Makes, 21 Jewels of Wisdom for Living Your Treasured Life. Believe it or not, it's a book about self-leadership. I was afraid if I called it that, people would not be interested, because a lot of people, when you mention self-leadership, people either lean in or they go, oh no, I don't want to lead anything else. I don't want to do anything else. No more tasks, no more tasks. And so I said, what is it that I want people to know, and what are people struggling with the most? And as I mentioned at the beginning, it was change. It wasn't strategic planning. It's not a lack of training. It's not a lack of desire. It is navigating through change. We just getting stuck. And what I found for high performing leaders, another big block for them was leading themselves. So the book is simple on purpose because change is complex enough. It is by design simple because I didn't want to overcomplicate it. And it's designed to help you alleviate some of the challenges. Remember, I said where your comfort zones run into change and our habits run into change to alleviate some of that so you can contemplate change for yourself, contemplate leadership for yourself. And so it's a very simple book, easy to nurture and read. Here it is right here. Each passage has a place for you to write and reflect on how you would like to change. So it's not a book where I give you every answer to the test. I got messages from mentors that are I've actually worked with and mentors in my head whose work that I love, and space for you to contemplate change and how you want to navigate change for yourself. Because my position is that we alone get to make the decisions on how we change, but we don't have to do it alone. We can do it in community. We can lock virtual arms. We can support one another and help one another. But it's up to us to decide the wins and the hows of the change. So that's what is there to help you think through that.
So, Dr. Sheree, I just want to jump in and say, if anyone would like a copy of Dr. Sheree's book, send me an email and then we'll send them out. We'll get you a copy. Okay.
Awesome.
You can have them work with your book. It would be fabulous.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. And let's see here. Any other questions for me? I think we're just about at time, aren't we? What are the questions? I think we have a little bit more time, right? How do you deal with the battle of seeking help and feeling like a coward? Would you mind coming off of mute? Is it Sithong? Am I saying your name right? Oh, you're on mute. I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh no, I can't hear you. Can't hear you, Sithong.
There. Oh. Make sure your volume is up. Oh gosh. Oh, if you check, see where it says mute, there's a little up arrow. See if you've got the right microphone selected there on the little up arrow by your mute button. Sithong, thank you, Grace. So Sithong, I'm going to try to, while you're working on the mute, I'm going to try to work out what you said. So how do you deal with the battle of seeking help? Are you saying that you feel like a coward because you have to ask for help? Okay, I gotcha. Well, okay, what? Oh, say something. I thought I heard you. Oh, I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Wow, that worked. Yay.
Yeah, what else would you like me to know about what you said?
It's just in general, like,
Yeah.
generally, I think we all feel that when you ask for help, you're kind of like in that constant battle, like, will I look too weak to ask for help?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you refuse to ask for help because you don't want to.
I'll tell you, I have a passage in the book just about asking for help because you're absolutely right. So many of us struggle with asking for help. And here's the thing, we don't have to be able to do everything. I think it's courageous to ask for help. I think it's a sign of excellent leadership to ask for help because there's a point where we just don't have the ability or wisdom to do it all ourselves. Why not come together? Why not allow people to sow into you and help you, and you pay it forward? You help them. Even when I teach about networking, it's always value for value. So if you ask someone to be your contact, then what's the other side? What can you do for them later on when they need it? Maybe they send someone else to you, and we have this beautiful cascade of us helping one another. Every time we ask for help, we give someone else the courage to do the same. Every time we ask for help, we expand our capacity and ability. And so rather than think about it as a coward, cowards are people who need help but refuse to ask. So it's courageous to get those words together and say, I blew it the other day. Got to figure out a way to dig myself out of it. Can I run something by you? What do you think about this? I respect the work that you do. So if you don't mind, I'd like to hear from you on your thoughts on this. Maybe later on, if there's anything else I can do, this is what I do, this, and that. Let me know how I can help you or someone else in need. And believe it or not, people will start to see you as a resource. They'll feel good that you see them as a resource too. It's a beautiful thing. So I encourage you to quiet the mind the mind when you hear those voices saying, you don't need to ask for help. What are you, coward? You should know that. Just bring it in with those breaths Michelle mentioned. Settle in, settle down, and summon the courage to make one call, one request, one text, one email. Hope that helps. I hope that helps, Sitong.
And I know real fast, Dr. Sheree, I know that the scholars really respect Barb, and I would actually just want them to know that Barb does this better than any director I've ever had before. She publicly admits when she's made a mistake, and she's quick to ask for help. And I just want them to know that one of their role models does this well.
You, Amanda, for saying.
I was going to say, Barb, say more about, was there ever a time, Barbara, when you did not do that, or have you always been that way?
Wow, I don't even know how to answer that. I think I've just realized that it's better to say that you don't know or that you didn't get it right, and then everyone can go on. And if you don't, then things get hung up. So I think it makes everyone at ease too, you know. I just feel better when I can acknowledge my mistakes about myself.
I love it. Amanda,
I don't know what else to say. It comes naturally.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Amanda. Thank you for mentioning it because it's important. I flex my muscle with that working as a manager at Marriott Vacation Club here in St. Thomas. We have a big vacation club here. And I was over sales and marketing side, particularly the marketing folks. And so I had 23 folks at the time who all were around either booking people on these sales presentations or serving customers. And there would be times when we just blow it. People would have saved up their money to come on vacation and get here and just fall to pieces. And I'd have to go in and say, we blew it. This shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't happen. What can I do to restore your faith in Marriott? And then zip it and pray that they didn't ask me for anything too big for me to offer, right? But you just give people a chance to no, it didn't work out. But I have a desire to fix it and make it better. And then they know you're human.
You know, I can add one more thought. If you're the person who easily acknowledges when you make a mistake, then when you think other people think you made a mistake and you believe you did right, they believe you. And you feel more confident. It's like, no, I did it because of this. And they know that you're not just defending yourself. So it gives you credibility, like when you go up against resistance for things that maybe you did that people didn't like or didn't think were right.
I love that. I love that. I think we just had one more question. Change takes time. How do you manage it when you want to foster a new habit in a short time? I have to be gentle with myself because I would love for things to happen fast. Is it Arian? Arian?
Yeah,
Arian.
you can say so, but you could say Ariane, yeah.
Ariane, I love for things to happen like this. I wish I could have like a queen wand or something where I could just hit it and make things happen fast, but it rarely happens. So I just mind my mind and say, settle down, Sheree. This is going to take a little bit longer than you expected. Let's be gentle with ourselves. And so the only way to foster a habit is to do it repeatedly and do it well. And so sometimes habits take time. It's been well researched. And so we just have to give it that time to be able to land. Ariane, I wish I knew that there was a way to make it go faster. Is there anyone else who wants to weigh in on what you do when you want things to happen a little bit faster than you wish? Stay focused though, Ariane, no matter what. Just give it the time. Anyone else want to weigh in on that one? It's a tough one. Oh, good. Okay, I hope that will work. Okay. Well, Amanda, I think, did I keep my time?
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to actually hand it over to Barb to transition us, but thank you so much. This was wonderful. I know I'm going to be getting a copy of your book. I'm excited.